What's up guys, Sio here with the first week of the playoffs for the NES Season 2. This week we are going up against Doudsy, aka the AC Milanturn, aka the guy I've already lost to twice this season. Before I get into this, I definitely owe you guys an explanation since it's been like a month or something since my last NES battle. Long story short, my work has become insane, and I just honestly have not had time to sit down, build the layout and stuff, and actually record and actually give you guys like good commentary and stuff. I have worked a ridiculous amount of time, including up to 20 hours of overtime on the 1st of July. I normally only really get time to record on the weekends, so when I'm working 20 hours of overtime on the weekends, obviously I do not have time to record. So this has been a long time coming. This battle's like a couple weeks old at this point. Before that, I actually had a battle against the Nottingham Forest Curse, who Wordfell actually ended up beating me for her first time. It was a pretty good game. I kind of brought a lot of meme sets, not really caring very much, and then she brought a lot of sets that showed that she was like actually trying to beat me and stuff. I underestimated how badly she wanted to win because I thought she was just going for the first overall pick, but it was a good game by her. But anyway, week after that I got into this battle with AC Milanturn, and I will just keep going with playoff stuff from here, but need to catch up with this one first. So, like I said, I've already played doudsy 3 times, or this will be my 3rd time playing doudsy this season, so we're pretty familiar with each other's rosters. I don't really match up that well with him, but the past couple times I've played him, it's actually been a pretty close game, and closer than the score would suggest, in my opinion. Like I'm normally only a hit or 2 off on something to be able to actually win. So I felt pretty confident heading into this game. I'm pretty happy to see that he did not bring Ditto, even though I did bring a lot of stuff like preparing for Ditto. I like to just think that means that he respects me enough to not bring Ditto because he knows that I'm going to bring a ton of shit to prepare for it. But it also didn't really completely hinder my team. So this week I have a Lopunny, actually, like I would insinuate, designed to kind of counter Ditto with Fake Out, Protect, High Jump Kick, and Frustration. Protect basically allows me to lock or see what he's locking himself into and go from there, more or less. And I can basically just live anything else. I can either do 50% with, or 50% to him if I project on a high jump kick and he misses. I can double into my Rocky Helmet Cafagrigus, which I'm going to get to later, if he goes for Frustration, and remove Mummy, and basically make it so he's forced to switch out. And if he just goes for Fake Out and I click Protect, then no big deal, I guess. Next up, I guess I'll just go to that Rocky Helmet Cafagrigus with Pain Split, Nasty Plot, Shadow Ball, and Psychic. Basically just meant, it's like a weird defensive / offensive Cafagrigus meant to lure him into feeling safe, that I'm just like a pretty standard Will-O-Wisp set or whatever, and then potentially trying to get some Nasty Plot damage off late in the game. He had slower stuff that I wanted to set up on, but most of it didn't really come this game. Next up we have Leftover Skarmory with Stealth Rock, Spikes, Roost, and Brave Bird. Basically max HP and a little bit of a little bit of speed and a little bit of offense to be able to get kills that I need to, specifically on Scrafty actually. I should be able to OHKO it from full, and I should be able to set up Spikes and Stealth Rocks on a couple of things on his team that unfortunately didn't really come. I was more expecting to do it on Registeel and I forget what else, but mainly Registeel, but it didn't come, so sad face for me, I guess. Then I have Scarf Nidoking with Rock Slide, Earth Power, Ice Beam, and Thunderbolt. Rock Slide, it seems kind of like redundant coverage, I guess, for Rock Slide when the rest of the set is special, but I kind of wanted to diversify what I could lock myself into, and Rock actually works very well against his team. I didn't really just want to run Hidden Power Rock just because I wanted to be able to get a little bit more damage from Sheer Force. Hidden Power is not really that great on Nidoking because it's not Sheer Force boosted, and while Nidoking has like decent special attack, it's not like great. So normally Hidden Power is not really worth it to run, especially with the coverage it gets anyway. So I opted for Rock Slide because it could potentially allow me, like, if Victini, Kyurem, and Crobat are alive at the end of the game, it gives me something to hit all of them with super effective damage. If I want to go for Ice Beam instead with something like Crobat and Venusaur, who hasn't, like, evolved yet or something like that, he has to evolve, so it's not really a good example. But my point is that even though the coverage kind of overlaps, it overlaps in ways that allows me to potentially clean up with it in the end game. Next up we have Scarf Zoroark, because it worked really well against him the last time I played him. Night Daze, Low Kick, Extra Sensory, and Trick in case he brought some slow walls that I wanted to just trick a Scarf onto late in the game. As well as if I can scout and see what he has scarfed and isn't scarfed. If I don't need my Scarf anymore, just send it off to something that can kind of get crippled by it, I guess. Like a Scarf Crobat's not really going to do very much. So potentially I could go for that. I probably wouldn't because he'd probably have Black Sludge, but that's okay. And finally I have Normalium Z Lantern with Volt Switch, Ice Beam, Hydro Pump, and Heal Bell. This basically just allows me to take hits from Special Victini, which he really likes, and allows me to potentially take something from Kyurem. It's not the best at it, but it allows me to do something sometimes. So my two leads this season pretty much have been Lopunny or Skarmory, and I'm going to keep that going here. I figure he can probably predict me to lead Zoroark. He's most likely going to predict me to try to get up rocks as soon as possible because he knows that I know that his roster is weak to it. So I'm just going to play the safest way possible and lead Lopunny and go for a fake out. I don't want to make an early turn prediction and then am forced to like switch into something here. So I am going to go Lopunny as he ends up going for Kyurem here. So like I said, pretty safe for me to just go for fake out. I can fake out into high jump kick if I really want to, but there's really no reason for me not to fake out. He goes Slowbro here and actually shows that he's full Spadef as well as Rocky Helmet. So I'm not really going to be able to do as much damage and spam fake out quite as freely as I wanted to. I kind of saw this set coming, but I wanted to just confirm right away because he could have been like a Spadef, like Assault, or like an Assault Vest set with like max HP, max defense or something like that if you really wanted to. Slowbro works well against my team as a pivot and it doesn't necessarily have to be like full defense or whatever, but he made it full defense, which is fine. So I end up having to switch because obviously I don't want to stay in here. He goes for a Toxic, which is a good play on his part because obviously I was going to switch and not stay in. I didn't really have anything to hit Slowbro anyway, so even if I could have predicted and went for a Thunder Punch or something, I didn't have it, obviously. I'm just going to go for the Heal Bell to get rid of the Toxic because I don't want my main wall to be Toxic. Obviously that's a little early and it gives him a little bit of momentum that I didn't really want. But I kind of have to, and he forces my hand, and he goes into Venusaur, so I'm just going to Volt Switch out. I'm actually not going to Volt Switch out because I didn't want to take the damage, my bad. So I Hard Switch into Skarmory because I don't want him to just Giga Drain me and potentially do like 60% or something. It actually would have probably been better for me to Volt Switch out, seeing as how he went for a Leech Seed there, but I didn't want to over-predict and lose like one of my biggest walls turn 3 or 4 of a very big game. I get lucky and he misses anyway, so it's not really the end of the world. And I do get to keep my Sturdy intact, which is nice and allows me to basically just get rocks up here for free. If I wanted to, I could also go for a Brave Bird here and try to get some damage off, or potentially start to set up spikes. But I don't want Skarmory taking that much damage for literally no reason, so I go Lantern. You can see that it's still not really, like it's a 3-hit KO, which isn't great, but it's doable. I can take another one, go for a Zia Heal Bell if I want to, and then heal back up to full. Or I could go for a Hydro Pump, which is obviously going to scare this thing out because I can live. The fact that he switches there is a good sign and probably shows me that he's Scarfed. Normally a Scarf Victini is never a good sign, but my Scarf Zoroark outspeeds it, which means that I don't have to worry about it being some ridiculous set. I was somewhat afraid of Z-Trick, actually, to raise his speed to +2 and then just sweep from there. So the fact that he's likely Scarfed is nice. So he goes Venusaur. I Volt Switch out this time, which I guess is the one that I was thinking of. And go Skarmory because I want to just try to set up stuff. I end up doubling here, actually, into Nidoking, specifically trying to catch his Crobat because I figured it's probably pretty obvious that I'm trying to set up spikes or something here. Even if I go for a Brave Bird, it's not really going to do that much to Crobat, because Crobat's probably physically defensive as well. Probably pretty bulky. So I make a decent double here into Nidoking because I want to catch the Crobat and prevent it from getting a free defog off, basically. He shows he's Black Sludge, but I still do a ton of damage. This is Scarf Nidoking, by the way. So the fact that a Scarf Nidoking is able to do that much, it shows me that he's probably like absolutely full Phys Def. which is nice for me because my main way of taking it out is a special attacker, which is cool. So I'm just going to go for an Ice Beam again because I don't want this to be another over prediction like I had in the first game that I played against him. He makes the nice safe play to just go out and Scrafty here, who takes it very well. I actually think this thing might be Assault Vest based on how well that it took it. So I go into Skarmory here. As he goes for a knockoff, I lose leftovers, which isn't really the biggest deal. It would be nice to have the residual recovery, but I'm mainly just using this thing for spike stacking. I go for a Brave Bird there on the off chance that he thinks that I'm just a non-attacking Skarmory, which I have brought before. So I show Brave Bird here, which kind of sucks because now it means that he's probably less likely to stay in with Scrafty, as well as me taking like a big chunk of Rocky Helmet damage for no reason. So I go ahead and switch out here into Lanturn because it's just my dedicated switch. He reads it, obviously, goes Venusaur, and I'm obviously stuck. Sorry, I'm trying to text my girlfriend as well as commentate. Okay, so I have to switch, obviously, because I'm not going to stay in here and let this thing Giga Drain me. I go Skarmory on the off chance that he Giga Drains. I need to get this thing back up to some amount of health, so I have to sit here and Giga Drain, even though he's basically getting back up to full, and is now at full, and I'm not really that much higher than I was before. He goes into Slowbro here, which is kind of surprising to me, and suggests that he might have Thunderbolt. But I need to kind of sort of make a play here because I'm not really getting anywhere with his team, even though it feels like it. So I actually stay into Spike here because I predict him to over-predict or try to catch something on the way in. Him going for Psyshock suggests that he was probably trying to catch Nidoking, I would guess, on the way in. I don't know why I would ever go Nidoking on a Slowbro. I would also not go Lopunny on a Slowbro, so I'm not 100% sure why he went for Psyshock specifically, but it actually rewarded my, not over-prediction, but forcing him to over-predict, and got another layer of hazards up. But here, I'm actually kind of afraid to go Nidoking because of that play that he made, so maybe that's why he did it, was to kind of psych me out from going hard Nidoking here. So instead I go Lanturn because it's a safe play, and he goes Crobat, which sucks, because now he gets a defog off if he wants it. He goes for a Roost instead, so I go for a Volt Switch and make the play I should have probably made in the first time and go into Nidoking. Here I know that Ice Beam probably, I think, with a high roll, I think Ice Beam has a chance to kill here. But because I've gone for Ice Beam and he knows exactly how much damage Ice Beam does, I know that he's probably not going to want to stay in if it is Ice Beam. So I actually predict him to double back into Slowbro and go for Thunderbolt here, just because I want to catch Slowbro ideally on the way in. I unfortunately don't kill it. It unfortunately gets the defog off, so I'm kind of back to square one with my hazards. And unfortunately I didn't do the damage to Victini or Kyurem that I needed to do because he was doing a very good job of keeping them healthy in the back. So I go Skarmory to try to get the hazards back up as soon as possible. Unfortunately, I kind of failed this turn to realize what he was going to be doing this turn and just went hard Kyurem. So now I have to basically sack something. I managed to wait 22 turns before I got into the have to sack something to Kyurem Black scenario. But again, doudsy to doudsy because at that point Lanturn was my weakest thing. It would have been basically only a switch into it would have basically only been a switch into Victini at that point, and even then I would have had to get it in on a clean switch, Z Heal Belt, and then it would have been a switch for one more hit. So it just seemed like the most useless member of my team at that point. So Lanturn drops, I go Lopunny because I can scare it out with a high jump kick at least. Even if I don't end up going for a high jump kick, I can scare it out. So I end up doubling here because I want to get my hazards back up. I know I'm scaring out Kyurem, so I just want to do some kind of damage. And by the way, I feel like I should mention the previous turn. Kyurem switching out before Lopunny actually shows that Kyurem's faster than Lopunny, which shows that he's rocking double Scarf in the middle of his lineup, which is scary. It also means that my Scarfer outspeeds both of his Scarfers, which is nice, as well as everything on his team, basically. So if I can weaken stuff, Zoroark is actually looking pretty good this game. So I need to get the hazards up, so I need to just go for stuff. Spoilers though. speaking of how good Zoroark is, this is actually Zoroark because I wanted him to try to go for something. Actually, I'd said earlier in the battle that I thought Slowbro had Thunderbolt, but it was Fire Blast that I thought it had. I wanted it to go for Fire Blast there because I could have sworn that it was going to have it. I wanted it to just go for it and then get obliterated by Night Daze, and unfortunately that's not what happened. Night Daze is a solid maybe 4-hit KO. I get the accuracy drop there, which is kind of cool, but it doesn't really matter that much. So I end up swapping into the real Skarmory as he goes for a Leech Seed. Lands it anyway because, like I said, it didn't really matter. And then he switches out because he sees me going for Stealth Rocks here. If I would have been a little bit more aggressive and gone for a Brave Bird there, it would have been a decent play, although I don't know if it would have killed, just because this is most likely a full Fizdef Crobat. But it would have done enough damage that I think it would have killed, and it would have completely removed his Defogger and given me a chance to potentially set up and spam hazards anytime Slowbro came in. Since judging by the fact that it switched out again, it probably doesn't have anything to hit Skarmory beyond Scald. Which does like 40-ish% if I remember right, but not enough to kill from here. But unfortunately, that's not what happened. He went Crobat, got his recovery. I have to switch out as he probably defogs again. Instead he goes for a Roost, getting back up to full, which is a good play on his part because now it's even harder for me to take him out. And here I'm just going to go ahead and Nasty Plot because I don't expect him to stay in, but I also don't really... I want to put the pressure on. He goes for a U-turn, and I see that he's Inner Focus, which is good prep on his part because I said in the first battle I had against him this season that I thought he was going to have Inner Focus Crobat, specifically designed to counter Fake Out Lopunny and just kill it with Brave Bird. But he ended up doing that this time because he listened. So good for him, bad for me. He gets damaged by the Rocky Helmet and sees that I'm probably full Fizdef and goes Crafty here. He sees that I'm not Z-move, so that I'll actually die to knock off here, so I kind of am forced to switch out even though I just got a Nasty Plot off. And go Skarmory, who's able to live. And I could go for a Roost here, but I learned earlier in the season that roosting, not getting up to full, and then being weak to Fighting type fucking sucks. So I think that's what he's going to think here, and I just go for the Brave Bird because I actually do outspeed. That was like a specific speed creep that I found in practice, so thanks to Super Nerd, I believe, for pointing that one out. So it's a double down here. I end up actually taking myself out with Recoil, which kind of sucks, because that means that I can't get spikes up, which means that it's going to be a little bit harder for me to kill Kyurem at this point. I really would have appreciated to have both Spikes and Stealth Rocks up because it just does that extra chip damage that I really needed it to do to be able to get the kills. But I'll figure out what to do, I guess, still. So I go Nidoking here, even though it doesn't really line up super well with this Mega Venusaur switch. Specifically because I did not want him to go Crobat right there and defog and then me not have rocks for the rest of the game. I was okay with having to switch out here against Mega Venusaur again, even though I didn't really have a great switch into it. Specifically because I did not want Crobat to completely ruin everything for me, basically. So, like I suggested with that commentary, I switch out into Kofag because there's no reason for me not to at this point. I'm really at this point wishing that I was Trick Room over Pain Split because I could have gone for a Trick Room there and at least done something. But I just basically sack it off at this point because it's the best sack that I have. It is a good physical check to stuff, but it was mostly meant for if Ditto was going to be here. And obviously Ditto did not come, so it was kind of just left behind. So it's 5-3 now. I don't really have a very good answer to this Venusaur. Kyurem's still sitting in the back. Victini's still sitting in the back. Crobat's basically... well, no, Crobat's still scary, but I still have an answer to it in Nidoking at least. And Slowbro's still scary, but I at least have something of an answer to it in Zoroark if he stays in on me. So, Phantom drops, and I just go Zoroark here. Both because I want to scare this thing out and because I want to get another Pokemon into the back slot. If you don't know, Zoroark only copies a Pokemon if it's in the 6th member of your party. Because in the earlier turn where I switched the thing that looked like Zoroark but was actually Skarmory, or the thing that looked like Skarmory but was actually Zoroark into Skarmory, sorry, it gets confusing. Zoroark ended up being the 6th member of my party and thus not disguised. So that's why he came out undisguised here. So I'm just going to go for the extra sensory that I have and just gauge the damage. It's still a 4-hit KO, which kind of sucks. It could potentially be a 3-hit KO based on if that was a decent roll, or a lower roll in my favor, I guess. But it doesn't really matter because he goes for Giga Drain there and gets back up to full, or not full, but high enough that I need to switch out again. So I go Lopunny because actually, surprisingly, Lopunny's not really doing very much for the rest of the game. I thought Lopunny was going to be one of my main cleaners this game, but with Scarf Victini and Scarf Kyurem, it doesn't really, like, it doesn't outspeed anything that it needs to outspeed, and it also doesn't hit anything that it needs to hit hard enough at this point. I assume both Venusaur and Slowbro, or Venusaur, Slowbro, and Crobat all have some level of physical defense as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and go for a frustration, because Bonnie's very frustrated. That was originally intended for Ditto, so he could have a really weak return if he maxed out Happiness. So here, I needed to make a play, because I needed to basically keep Venusaur low enough that it wasn't going to do anything there. So I actually make a pretty risky double there, even though he very easily could have Giga Drained and just killed off Lopunny. I figured he did not want to kill off Lopunny that way because he didn't want to leave his Venusaur low enough for me to be revenged. So I predicted his double into Slowbro and went Nidoking here because I wanted to get a Thunderbolt off. I wanted to just get a little bit of chip damage so Zoroark could clean up. Spoilers, that's actually Zoroark. I just wanted to play with you guys. So I actually made the hardest read into Zoroark because I realized that that was the decent, like, safe option. On the off chance that he went Victini and just wanted to take a hit, I don't know why he really would have, but I also covered the Victini double. But that was probably one of my favorite Zoroark plays in the season, so I kind of wanted to keep it a surprise until the last minute. But I ended up catching that Slowbro and OHKOing it from basically full, or not basically full, from full, thanks to Rocks. The Rocks actually made a huge difference there because I think it only did like a minimum of 89% or something like that. So like I said, Lopunny, while being awesome all season, now doesn't really do anything at this point in the game. I'm still not really in a very good situation here, because like you saw earlier in the battle, extra sensor only does like 30% or something, but I'm still happy that I at least made that one Zoroark play, I guess. So I go Zoroark again. This is the Zoroark that's actually a Zoroark just disguised as a Nidoking. But I go for extra sensory here because I just need to do the damage that I can to this thing. Zoroark continues to come in clutch and gets the flinch. That's probably one of the biggest flinches I've ever gotten in my Pokemon career, if I'm being perfectly honest. I managed to take out Venusaur, and potentially this game is actually turning back around. Like, it's very, very not in my favor at all. But with these three things left alive, I actually have enough coverage between both of my Mons to be able to pull through here. It's going to be very difficult, obviously, but I have the coverage. So he goes Kyurem here because he knows that I don't kill from here with extra sensory, obviously. I would kill from here with a low kick, but I can't actually go for low kick because I'm locked into extra sensory. So I'm basically forced at this point to either go for the extra sensory, let Kyurem kill me, and then clean up with Nidoking, or go hard Nidoking, obviously die to whatever he's going to go for because he's probably not going to go for a Fusion Bolt, and then just clean up with Zoroark. And I realized that cleaning up with Zoroark is actually slightly more likely here, and I'll explain my thought process as I go through. But I'd make the other double directly into the thing that I was disguised as, and then pop out as Zoroark again. And here, while I really, 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 really would have appreciated one more switch to be able to mix up moves, because then it could have turned into a 50-50 if I was going to go for low kick or if I was going to go for Night Daze. I decided to go for Night Daze because, first of all, it has a 40% chance to lower accuracy. Second of all, it's the only thing that actually hits Victini super effectively, Crobat neutrally, and Kyurem neutrally. And secondly, it is actually a 2-hit KO, as you're about to see on Kyurem here. It goes for 42%, but unfortunately I did not get the accuracy drop. I unfortunately could not count on Zoroark to come through for a third time that battle. And unfortunately for the third time this season, I lose to doudsy. I can't really even say I'm surprised, to be perfectly honest. Like, I entered this battle very optimistic that I was going to be doing better with a high-octane, like, hyper-offense scheme against him. Because the only time I've actually ever beaten doudsy was in the playoffs, so I was actually a little bit more confident this game than my previous battles against him. But as you can see, much like my other two battles against doudsy, I came up one hit short on Kyurem, and if I would have just gotten that one hit, or that one switch to take that one more hit from Kyurem, I could have potentially killed the rest of his team and swept and ended up having a nice comeback. It looked like it was going to be a 5-0 again, and then it looked like it was going to be a potential sweep, like comeback sweep by me again. But again, doudsy ended up winning. I'm not mad, really. I was a little frustrated for a bit after this battle because I felt like I actually played pretty well and I just wasn't able to come through. But really, doudsy just had a fantastic season. He had an awesome team with like fantastic wall breakers as well as walls that just made it hard for me to actually plan for both. I normally had the offense to be able to win and then the defense to be able to win, but he just kind of outplayed me most of the weeks. I do feel like this is a playoff worthy game though, because if I would have gotten the accuracy drop and he would have missed outrage, I actually could have won the game. Or not could have, I would have won the game, which would have been pretty ridiculous and probably cemented Zoroark as one of my favorite Pokemon ever. Even after this battle, I still think Zoroark did fantastically. I'm really happy with the play that I made to be able to OHKO Slowbro, because that was something that potentially, like, hardwalled my team outside of that one play that I could have made to kill it, so I'm happy with that. And overall, even though I end the season again not as the NES Season 2 champion, Danny actually won it for the third straight season. Spoilers. I am happy with how this season went. I had a lot of fun with my team. There were a couple of Pokemon that I had that I did not use at all before League play, and then absolutely fell in love with this season, which is everything that I hoped for when I drafted the Pokemon. Doudsy had a great season as well. He ended up making it to the semifinals and then losing to HBK, I believe. But his team was super scary too. So coming up for me is more NES action, I guess. I'm planning on doing a draft recap at some point soon. I'm planning on doing one of those exhibition matches or like exhibition lives, I guess I should say, where I bring my NES team through the ladder and just see how well I can do. It's a nice fun live that I did with Season 1, and I kind of want to do it again, especially that Lopunny's legal again on the ladder. Beyond that, stay tuned for more NES stuff. We are currently planning Season 3. We're trying to get the draft for that sometime in the next month. Fingers crossed. Don't hold me to that, other viewers of the NES. But we're trying to get it soon so we can get Season 3 to you guys. But we have another thing coming in the meantime. I guess since you've watched this video, I can go ahead and spoil that for you guys if you don't know. But we are having a short little tournament, specifically in Little Cup, with a couple of interesting tiering selections, I guess I should say. We basically pulled the Smogon Little Cup viability rankings and made tiers out of them, and then gave everyone the opportunity to draft whatever they wanted as long as it fit to tiers and stuff. So it's not gonna be a super serious thing since it's only like 4 weeks or something, and I don't even know at this point if we've decided if we're doing playoffs. But it should be fun because Little Cup is awesome. I already have the draft for that. I've actually already had my first week battle for that. But that'll be going up pretty soon, so thank you guys. I'm sorry I couldn't bring you a Season 2 championship, but stay tuned because I am very hungry for Season 3. I have already been working on my draft for that basically since halfway through this season, as I figured out what I liked and what I didn't like. So just stay tuned and we will bring home an NES championship at some point. It wasn't this year, but it will be soon. So have a good week, guys, and stay tuned for more stuff. I hope to be back to our regular schedule now, and have a good one.